We have a distinguished member, a member of Parliament from the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, the Honourable Llewellyn Tyrone Landers, and his dear wife. Let us welcome them. I'm advised that the honourable member is making a courtesy call on the Minister of Foreign Affairs and our country, and indeed this Parliament. And we are delighted to have you, sir. And I'm also advised that the Minister will reference you in a communication that he will make very shortly, the member for Fox Hill and our Minister of Foreign Affairs. The honourable member, Llewellyn Tyrone Landers, was elected Member of Parliament to the National Assembly of the Republic of South Africa in 1994 for the African National Congress. He served continuously in Parliament for over 20 years, and I understand that he is from the inimitable class of '94 that put together the first constitution of the newly freed and democratic South Africa. We are delighted to have you, sir, and we wish you Godspeed while you are staying here with us. And if the member for Fox Hill is so obliged, the Chair will recognize him at this time for an intervention. The Chair recognizes the honourable member for Fox Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my privilege and honor on behalf of the Governor of the Bahamas to welcome to the Bahamas and to add those words of welcome that you have given on behalf of the House to the Honourable Deputy Minister, Foreign Minister for International Relations for South Africa, Llewellyn Landers. This is one of a number of visits by South African officials to the Bahamas since their full democracy in 1994. You may recall that in 2003, we had a high-level state visit by the then President of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. He was joined by his then Foreign Minister, Nkosazana Zuma, who is now the chair of the African Union Commission. Madam Zuma visited the Bahamas as recently as the 28th of September of this year, and during her visit pledged the support of the African Union for our bid to become members of the United Nations Human Rights Council. And I said to the Minister, the Deputy Minister this morning, that we got all but 4 of the votes from the African continent. That was her 3rd visit to the Bahamas, because on the last visit being on the 23rd of September 2005, when she visited as Foreign Minister of South Africa the city of Freeport, where she planted a lignum vitae tree, sometimes we say lignum vitae in the Bahamas, in Freeport, to replace the one that was planted in 2003 by President Mbeki, which had died as a result of a hurricane. And the tree is flourishing. I took a picture to make sure she did. For me, it is a personal privilege and honor because of my close ties with the anti-apartheid movement, which I had the opportunity to help to establish in this country back in 1978 with the late Beryl Hannah, who's the mother of our now Minister of Transport. Before that, I had moved a resolution in the National General Council of the Progressive Liberal Party to collect and send monies to President Robert Mugabe's ZANU-PF, which was so delivered by the then chair of the PLP, Andrew Dud Maynard. I've had the opportunity, on behalf of this country, to attend the Pan-African summits called by South Africa in Kingston, Jamaica, and in South Africa itself. I've witnessed the official visits to this country by the President of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, General Gowan of Nigeria, and Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia. We have marked the emancipation of slavery in the Bahamas with a visit by the singing group from South Africa, in 2004, And in 2007, Minister Nalini Pandor, then Education Minister of South Africa, came here to mark the 200th anniversary of the abolition of the transatlantic slave trade. The Bahamas is also a part of the reparations movement of CARICOM. The crowning glory for us in the direction of African liberation, however, had to have been the fact that Nassau, yes, Little Nassau, which was established as a city in 1861, and you happen to land in the middle of celebrations for the establishment of the city of Nassau. Little Nassau was the center of world attention as Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Brian Mulroney, the then Prime Minister of Canada, Rajiv Gandhi, then Prime Minister of India, and the great leaders of Africa gathered here in Nassau under the chairmanship of our late great Prime Minister, Sir Lyndon Pinley, to agree on a methodology to help bring the apartheid regime to its knees. The agreement was settled in a document called the Nassau Accord. That took place during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in 1985, which was the 8th meeting of the governments of the Commonwealth of Nations. It was held in Nassau between the 16th of October 1985 and the 22nd of October 1985, and was hosted by our then Prime Minister. The Nassau Accord was agreed, calling on the government of South Africa to dismantle its apartheid policy, enter into negotiations with the country's black majority, and end its occupation of Namibia. The Commonwealth Eminent Persons Group was appointed to investigate the South African issue and report back with recommendations ahead of the special 1986 CHOGM conference in London. Once released from prison, Mr. Mandela visited the Bahamas and thanked Sir Lyndon Pinley for his role in opposing apartheid. And Thabo Mbeki also visited the Bahamas on an official visit, state visit, as I said, in December 2003. I reminded the Deputy Foreign Minister again that the President Mbeki left the Bahamas in the early hours of New Year's 2004 after the Junkanoo Parade. So it was about 4 or 4:30 in the morning. And he flew on to Port-au-Prince, where the Haitians were marking the 200th anniversary of their independence. The Bahamian delegation followed shortly afterwards, leaving Junkanoo, going to the airport, flying to Port-au-Prince. And you could tell the delegations that had spent their time in the Bahamas, because by evening, when the state banquet was taking place, both the South African delegations and the Bahamian delegations were fast asleep at the dinner table. In welcoming the Deputy Minister then, I hope he feels at home, and I wish to say a few words about him. The speaker's already indicated some. He was a member first of the Labour Party in 1984. Then, in 1983, he joined the African National Congress, was elected a member of Parliament to the National Assembly in 1994 for the ANC. He was chosen as a delegate to the negotiating council that settled the final constitution and presented it to the Constitutional Court. He has served continuously in Parliament for 20 years, which means he's been there since the flowering of democracy in their country. As one of the most experienced members of Parliament, he has over the years been involved in developing numerous substantive and transformative legislation for that country, and has helped to build the democratic state of the Republic of South Africa. He was a founding member of the Parliamentary Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development. He has also served on various other National Assembly parliamentary committees during his 20 years in Parliament, including the National Assembly Rules Committee, the Joint Rules Committee, and other ad hoc committees. He was appointed as chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development from 2009 to 2014. He was re-elected by the ruling party as an ANC Member of Parliament in April of 2014, and appointed Second Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation in May 2014. His current political responsibilities in this portfolio include political oversight for Europe, the Americas, and the Caribbean, specific areas of multilateralism, including human rights, as well as political oversight of the administration and parliamentary liaison on behalf of the department. And it is in that connection that he visits today. I would like to recall, Mr. Speaker, the many people that I got the opportunity to meet through my years of association with South Africa, who are now in positions of authority, some 21 years into their full democracy as a country. And the reason I mention this, Mr. Speaker, is to give an example to those younger people who are watching about the passage of time, the transformative nature of continuing to be engaged in the process of policy making, and how you can transform yourself from one state to the next. You never know where you can end up. I met many of these men and women when I served as part of the Commonwealth Observer mission on behalf of the Bahamas in South Africa for 6 weeks in 1992 and 4 weeks again in 1993. And I believe I was the first Bahamian to have met the late Nelson Mandela in the headquarters of the ANC when I delivered a note from Mrs. Beryl Hannah on behalf of the Anti-Apartheid Committee to him in November 1992. It was a signal and proud honor. And so I now recall now Ambassador Aziz Bahad, former Speaker of the House Franny Janwala, Mr. Bantu Holomisa, Paulo Jordan, Agasuto Buthelezi, of course the late Nelson Mandela, President Thabo Mbeki, Judge Richard Goldstone, Hugh Masekela, who had just returned to the country, and there was a jazz club that we used to fraternize with on weekends. It's amazing to me that he just sat and, surrounded by his friends. Occasionally he would play, and I got the opportunity for that. Miriam Makeba, of course, had come to sing at my school when I was a student at St. Augustine's College as a high school student. And last week, of course, your dear High Commissioner Joanie represented her country here in the Bahamas to mark the occasion of the Nassau Accord. And so I salute all of those people for their contribution that they made in building up the democracy which they have in South Africa. And of course, it marks the fact that you were also part of that struggle. We are proud as a country for the role we played in the construction, agreement, and settlement of the Nassau Accords, for the chairmanship of our late Prime Minister in bringing that to its conclusion, and for the change which it helped to bring about. Today, in the House of Assembly, therefore, we remember our former Prime Minister, Sir Lyndon Pinling, and the role he played, and we remember the late Nelson Mandela, whose funeral a delegation led by the Right Honourable Prime Minister joined the Prime Minister of Trinidad and other heads of government from the Caribbean when we flew there for the funeral, the Minister of Tourism, and it was a proud moment for us to mark a life well lived. And so, Mr. Speaker, through you to the Deputy Foreign Minister, on behalf of us all, welcome, and please take back with you fraternal greetings to South Africa from the Bahamas. And all that's left for me to say is thank you for coming to visit us, marking this accord. And God bless South Africa, and God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Honourable Member.